Hello, this is Mark Sobowitz with a Clarion Voice. Today we are pleased to have the children's pastor at Legacy Church, Kirkley Peterson, with us. Thank you, Kirkley, for being with us today. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mark, for having me.
Okay. Now, first of all, I want to find out, has your ministry been altered by the effects of all the events that have occurred this year?
To be effective would be a very simple way to put it. I've been in ministry since 2000, working with kids, and I've been on staff at Legacy since 2004. And of course, 2020 is a very unique year, and the fact that nothing is normal as what we were used to. Events, ministries, activities, everything went from in-person, personable to online and digital. So it's definitely been a shake-up this year from what we've been used to in all the years. I mean, all the years since leading up to 2020. We're talking thousands of years.
Well, what specific things have you done to keep the kids that you minister to focus on God?
Well, right off the bat in March, I want to say we skipped maybe 2 weeks. So I say right off the bat, after 2 weeks, we started doing online kids church. So I would pre-record a message and splice video, games, activities, just a kind of an interactive experience for kids. And then we would post it online on Sunday morning during our kids' church time. So we did that. And then we went to Zoom meetings. We went on Wednesday nights. We had a really good small group of kids that would come on Wednesday nights. And so we moved straight to Zoom. And that did really well. I had amazing leaders who really made it happen. They had the learning curve like everyone else. They learn, how do I use Zoom? How do I mute kids? How do I unmute kids? How do I stop video? How do I make sure kids don't share? How do I make sure kids don't, various things. And so I had leaders who are really good about learning how to use Zoom. And then we went forward with small groups on Wednesday, and we do a boys and girls small group on Sunday nights. And we were doing Zoom meetings there. It really kind of involved an interactive activity. It involved a lesson, an online snack, not Candy Crush, but I just everyone bring your snack, or they'd run and go get a snack from the house at snack time. And so it was just a way to maintain good, personal relationship. But with that, we had to really, cut everything else we were doing that was in person.
Okay. Now, have any of the kids come to you with specific anxieties and fears about what has been going on with the pandemic, and how did you respond to that?
Well, I think each kid is really unique and different, and I think a lot of times kids respond in accordance to how we've taught them to respond. I remember one story of a family when the kid was, I'm not going to name names, but it was a great story. It was a great illustration of when they were hiking, and another human being was walking down towards them. The kids were like, "There's someone coming!" They're like, "There's a human being coming at us! Like, danger, danger!" I mean, essentially. And so some kids have held on to some of the fears that us as adults have passed on to them. I think kids are pretty resilient, and they're pretty flexible and can adapt well. It's us older people, Mark, you and I, that don't adapt as well.
But did you have to address anything from a psychological standpoint at all?
Well, a lot of my interactions have been with my own kids during COVID, mostly just because we've been so separated. My kids really struggled initially with the online, the freedom to have to get a lot of work done. They're homeschool co-ops, so they've really had to could just continue with their normal work, but They've had struggles because they want to see, mostly it's like they want to see friends. I don't think understanding the fear of the pandemic, except for the fear we put on them, like we have to wear a mask, we have to stay socially distanced, and I think those kind of fears are what we've driven into them. But the big, I think, anxiety they have is the missing of friends. Mm-hmm. They want to spend time with each other. They want to see each other, and sometimes during my Zoom calls, that was the only time they got to see each other online, or the kids would make play dates online. So there was definitely kids with anxiety, and mostly had to deal with just being distanced from their friends, and the upturn of their normal life.
Okay, so they've been pretty adaptable now. I mean,
Right. I think a lot of the kids that I've interacted with, yeah. I've had parents tell me their kids have been adapted really well to online school, and, they're just taking one day at a time. And there's been other kids that have not done so well. I told you a story about the parent in Food for Less who was on the phone, and she's there, and she's like, I can't do it. I did not sign up for this. It's like, I am her parent. I am not her teacher. And so, there's a lot of anxiety and fear because of, as a parents, we can only help our kids so much in their work. And like my son's in 9th grade, I do not know his math. I help I try 7th grade. My daughter in 7th grade, and I'm reading over the question, and she's like, I'm like, why is this in Latin? Because I don't understand it. I mean, literally, I don't understand her 7th grade math. And so I think that's me. I think that's definitely a lot of parents, and that does transfer to stress and anxiety at home because just that cycle of frustrations. And
speaking of parents, how have they changed in their interactions with you? Because I know from years past, that parents would just drop their kids off for school and leave.
Right.
Now, how has that changed? I mean, are they more involved? Are they more willing to come to church, more so than they did before?
Well, initially when everything, the pandemic hit, there's a lot of online interaction. But I think as kind of digital fatigue has set in, where kids are always online, that has really made it difficult for them to continue always being online. We do see, maybe not being online at a certain time in the or on a Sunday morning, but we do see maybe watches and clicks later down the week. So initially we were really good with seeing a lot of families hopping online, and as fatigue set in, it kind of dwindled a little bit. Since we've been able to come back to church when we were in the red tier and we were able to have online, we got to see there are some kids who returned because parents feel safe, and there's some kids who didn't and still can continue online at home. So I would say it's been kind of like a peaks and valleys when it came to interactions.
Now, have you found that there are more opportunities to witness to the parents if they hadn't been actively involved before, to get them involved in the church or to come to church without necessarily driving away?
Right. So when we started resuming our ministry, I actually banked on letting parents drop their kids off because they needed that break. So if on Wednesday nights or Sunday nights when we do our ministry, I would encourage them, like, go, I'll see you in an hour and a half, because the idea was to give them that 90-minute break, because when kids are online, kids are at home. If you need 90 minutes to go on a date, to go shopping, get coffee, scream in your car, whatever it is, like you get 90 minutes to do what you need. So we really lean into that because I think that's what parents need. We still, though, find that parents are the number one ministers to their families. They have the most time. I share a statistic with you that says families have, we have, as a ministry, have 256 hours in 5 years, an hour at a time every week for 5 years. It's like 256 hours. And there's some give or take. There's camps in there, and there's kids who show up more than once a week, and there's kids who don't show up more than a week. So in 5 years, we have 256 hours, but families have over 3,000 hours in 1 year to minister to their kids. They have more time of influence than we do. So what we're really trying to do is just make sure we partner with families, with parents, because they hold all the cards on the time. And so if we can resource them and encourage them and see them through this in the long haul, then that's a win. So
okay.
We don't necessarily say, like, you drop your kids off, church is right there, like, you can't leave. Sunday morning is different because it's the way Sunday morning is set up. Kids come for kids' church, and then families go to church. But Wednesdays and Sunday nights, we really bank on encouraging them to take some of their time so that they can turn around and be healthy. Sometimes you just need some quiet time by yourself. or with your spouse.
What motivates you as a children's pastor?
Besides caffeine. Caffeine's a big one. No, I just, it's funny. My testimony as far as when it came to children ministry was funny because I had nieces, but I never really liked kids. And so I became a Christian in 2000, and I started going to church. And the way the story goes is I started becoming a greeter outside and talking to people. And I end up wanting to do more. So I approach a pastor and I say, hey, I would like to help out. And they're like, great, we could use some help in the sound booth. And here I'm thinking, like, big church. Like, I'm going to be in the big church with running the soundboard, the dials, pushing all the buttons, clicking everything. I'm like, I could do that. So I show up, and as I walk through the door, it wasn't big church. It was kids' church. And I go to, and I see Brian Matherly, the pastor at the time, and he's like, just, hang out, just take a moment and just, and experience it and tell me what you think, and we'll talk afterwards. So ultimately, I stayed on, and I continued serving because I just, it was not my niche, but I just felt like a draw to it. Just felt God drawing me to it. And moving into ministry after coming back from a missions trip, I just felt called to become a minister. And so in 2001, I came back and wanted to do my classes. So I started Berean courses, so I could take my classes to be a pastor. And so that just kind of, I love God and I love kids, and I want to instill in them, God's big story. He has a really big story for them, and I want them to experience that. And I want a healthy, wholesome family. So I guess if you were to say why, what drives me besides caffeine, we'll always say that's a given. The other given is Jesus. I just have a love for him and the ministry he's called me to, and want nothing more than to see it through.
What are the future plans do you have for children's ministry? What do you want to see?
Well, in purple tier or big
in any
big term?
tier?
Well, we talk about since family does have it's a really important spot. I really want kids to come to church. I want kids to experience church community. I want them to experience healthy relationships. I always talk and build up. I have amazing leaders from middle school, high school, adult leaders who love kids. And I want kids to surround themselves with those kind of individuals. There's been a few times where I thought about cutting a ministry of our children's ministry, thinking like maybe it's run its course. But then I think about my kids. I think about my son. And I'm like, well, I want him to be surrounded by these godly men. He needs those influences. He needs these leaders. He needs this fellowship. So the more positive influence on his life will directly correlate to what the rest of his life as he lives for God looks like. So I really my vision would be to really help kids create a community and to follow Jesus. I have my big vision is 4 words: create, share, guide, teach. Create a fun and safe environment. Share God's unconditional love, guide kids as they take their next steps with Jesus, and then teach with enthusiasm, relevancy. So those are my 4 fancy words, but create, share, guide, teach is really the heart of what I really want to instill in kids, because in the middle of that is to share God's unconditional love. I want them to know that God loves them. And so the more kids we can interact with, the more kids we can engage, the more kids we can tell that God loves them, And then I want them to take their next steps with Jesus. I want them to start diving into the Bible and understanding prayer and connecting with him, and know, because one of my favorite promises is when Jesus says, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. And I want kids to know that they don't walk through this world alone, and that he is with them.
Okay. So if any parent that watches this video is interested in bringing their children to Legacy Church, they can contact you through Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Kirkley Peterson, sometimes called Pastor Awesome. I'm not sure who gave that name. It was me. I gave myself that name. Kirkley Peterson, or I think it's Kirkley Peterson on Instagram, and Legacy Kids on Facebook. So
okay,
yeah.
All right.
Message me.
Kirkley, thank you very much for being here with us. If you like this video, share it with someone, and of course, like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Mark Sobowitz with a clarion voice. What a false smile. Oh, yeah, do that.
I like this one.
That's the one you want?
Yeah, oh my gosh.
That's what I want right there.
Oh, man. Okay.